At its core, it's a bodily function. It's a necessity. It is such a powerful drive, and I think because we don't have testosterone in our systems, we don't understand how hard it is.
Welcome to Manosphere Highlights Daily. Ever heard the saying, men give love to have sex, women give sex to get love? Well, today we're delving into the fascinating world of human sexuality through the lens of the incredible Norah Vincent's eye-opening third chapter, Sex, from her book, Self-Made Man. In this video, we're breaking down the key differences in sexual experiences Norah encountered while disguised as a man. Buckle up, because we're exploring three intriguing chapters: men's natural urge to have sex, women's emotional experience, mating strategy, why men should not play or should play elsewhere. This is our third video highlighting Norah Vincent's book. We discuss different things in each video, so no self-deletion talk in this video. We talk about that in the first video. Disclaimer: this video contains copyrighted footage, so we will be freezing it frequently to prevent copyright infringement. A special salute to our Patreon supporters. The original video will be available on Patreon. If you enjoy our content and want the full experience, consider supporting us on Patreon. Spoiler alert! This video contains spoilers, so you've been warned. We men and we. Yeah. We men and we. Yeah.
Plenty of men, most, really, want wives and families for all the right and good reasons: love, companionship, dedication. Domesticity is not inimical to them. The very idea is absurd and disproved 1,000 times a day. But, to hear them tell it, a lot of men do seem to struggle with their sexuality underneath, as well as with all the religious, political, matrimonial, literally mothering, forces that tell them to repress it. Men get married, but their sexuality doesn't then magically disappear amid the bliss of family life. Hence the preponderance of married men loping off in shame and secret to the strip club.
I'll come back to the first part about men wanting wives and families in the third chapter. This chapter we dive into the second part of what Norah wrote. Norah Vincent really struggled with the psychological aspect of her experiment, and it all comes down to the fundamental biological differences between men and women. Our sexuality, whether you're a man or a woman, is pretty profound, and the primary goal here is reproduction. Evolution has set us up psychologically and physically differently from men and women. Men have a higher sex drive thanks to our friend testosterone, and this natural tendency is disrespected not only in relationships but also in how society views it. This is what frustrates men, because one of the big reasons men got married is that it provided them access to sex. Listen to the pros.
About half of your clients are married, is that right?
Yes, I would say about half the clients that come to the Bunny Ranch are married.
My data set is basically, I would ask the guys that I saw, are you married? And if they said yes, then I would ask, so why are you seeing me? So I get like sort of, it is like a little anecdotal here. But the general sense that I got was that most of them had wives that weren't interested in them anymore. Basically wives that had like a bunch of kids or like were, had health issues, and basically just their sex drive was zero.
There are all kinds of reasons, but I really feel bad for those people who tell me that they had kids with their wife, and since then they don't have a sex life, no intimacy at all, and who were your girlfriend, your lover, your best friend, turn into a mother, and she's not wanting to sleep with you anymore.
And sometimes I would ask like, well, have you considered like bringing it up to her? Like, have you talked with her about it? And the majority of the responses, I made 60-70% were like horror. They were like, I don't want to destroy my entire life. One, like a guy, it was common for guys to be like, if I bring it up with her, I think she would leave me.
Well, I learned that they love their wives, and a lot of times they just want variety, something new. They're not really looking for long-term affairs. It's just sort of assisted personal pleasure.
Oh, what a relief. They're not looking for a long-term relationship, just sex.
It must be so difficult because you love your wife, you love your kids, you love your home, but there is just something missing.
This is the case. Like, a lot of the men had been sexless for 10 years before finally trying to find a sex worker. Like, most men don't feel great about the sex, like making their wife unhappy, like potentially to do this. Like, it is pretty high cost. A lot of them are risking like damage to their life.
And usually, traditionally, the only person you're supposed to have intimacy from is your wife. But what happens when your wife denies it from you? Then what are you supposed to do?
This is pure gold. Shout out to the pros. They keep it real. This is where the psychological differences between men and women collide when it comes to intercourse. The man has the ability to sleep with a woman without being emotionally invested. Norah Vincent talks about this in her book.
The rest of the men were doing their business mechanically, lined up side by side as unabashedly as if they were pissing at the urinals in a roadside public restroom, just satisfying an urge, doing what needed to be done. That was, in fact, something Phil had said to me early on. Come on, man, you know. For us guys, getting off is a biological necessity, like going to the bathroom.
Phil is one of the men with whom Norah went to the strip clubs disguised as Ned. And as a woman, she struggled with the fact that in strip clubs there was no pretense of foreplay, mentally or otherwise, taking all the pleasure out of the experience. A man doesn't need much to get in the mood. That's why the emotional component doesn't have to be present for intercourse. Men can have sex with a stranger in a heartbeat, and Miller's Girl plays well into this aspect.
Good morning.
You always walk through the woods alone?
That's a peculiar question to ask a young lady, Coach Fillmore.
Jenna Ortega's character, Cairo Sweet, literally just shows up. And that's enough for the guys to think, let's get it on. This is one of the reasons why, in certain cultures, the woman has to cover herself up. Not only to protect herself, but also to respect the man's biological sex drive. This is a form of repressing a man's sexuality to bring balance to the force, so to speak. Because if sex is available to men without commitment, men's mating strategy changes into short-term relationships because long-term commitment isn't necessary to sleep with women. That's what you see in the Miller's Girl movie. You see the complete opposite of the cover-up. The girls are poking the bear, so to speak. There are no parents in this story. She walks by herself in the woods. They flirt with the teachers. And their conversation about losing their virginity sounds like they are deciding which roller coaster they are going to ride for the first time that will give them the most pleasure at that moment. They don't encourage long-term commitment. They encourage hookups. This plays well into men's sexual fantasies that are extremely superficial, focusing on smooth skin and body parts, notably breasts, genitals, booty, legs, and mouths. Prawn taps into this. Check this out.
Hey, Emily. I'm gonna go kick it with my girl really quick. Do you mind telling mom and dad I'm just gonna go to class or some shit?
No way.
Why not?
Because last I remember, whenever I wanted to go out, I got caught. And you didn't do anything for me.
This time, just please, this time. I'll do anything. What can I give you?
No way. Anything, you said?
Yeah, anything.
Well, okay. There is one thing you can do for me.
What is it?
It's something that I've been looking for everywhere, and I can't find it. I heard it tastes really, really good.
So Ayala, you are a porn performer. Do you think that you are imitating male sexuality in your everyday work?
Yes. I mean, a lot of what you said, I don't disagree with. There's definitely like porn is like purchased mostly by men. Men are typically the primary consumers of the content that I create. There like basically don't exist any female purchasers of porn. I mean, like very, very, very tiny percentage.
The notable characteristic of male fantasies is their emphasis on pure lust and physical satisfaction, devoid of complex relationships, emotional intricacies, intricate plot lines, flirtation, courtship, and extended foreplay. These fantasies reflect a psychological orientation geared towards seeking sexual access to multiple partners. This is interesting because now that everything is out there, Pandora's box has been opened, and that's a big reason why the Miller's Girl movie is intriguing, because it delves into one of the last taboos, such as teacher-student relationships and significant age gap differences. In modern times, Western society has shifted away from strict taboos, leading to a different form of repressing a man's sexuality. Check this out.
The Me Too movement in 2017 raised awareness to numerous stories of sexual abuse of women in the workplace. And not only was the movement successful in exposing individuals like Harvey Weinstein, it even had an impact on public policy through the passage of laws to prevent harassment in the workplace. But like anything, the pendulum swings both ways.
So what does dating look like for like the average? 100,000 is not even the average person. Let's
Let's keep it
so
real.
let's keep it real. For the average person who is making $50,000, that's a good person. What does dating look like for them?
So if you're making $50,000, don't date.
Ooh.
I'm just being for real. You're not ready to date.
And for those that don't know what passport bros are, they are men that are just dating you for the sake of getting papers.
You know what I'm starting to think? Y'all only had enough money for the passports, because why are y'all still here? And what, you don't think they have feminism in other countries? Believe it or not, there are some countries that are way more progressive than America.
Ooh, okay. You got me there, huh? Honey, who hurt you?
The man is shamed for trying and shamed for not trying. The paradoxical shaming tactic is used where women are allowed to openly express themselves sexually and emotionally, and the man has to adapt or read into whatever is communicated to him at that time. If he fails, there could be heavy consequences to be paid for his actions. That's why men draw the conclusion not to play, because the juice ain't worth the squeeze. Look at these articles. Nearly 1 in 3 young men in the US report having no sex, study finds. Most young men are single, most young women are not. If you read these articles, you will find that the average man can't fulfill the expectations of the modern woman, and it's the top 10, top 20% of men who sleep with the majority of women.
Observing this, I was frightened, standing there very much alone. As a woman teeming prototypically with all my necessary illusions, confronted with the spectacle of male factory function, I felt a despair that was salvaged only by the knowledge that I was not heterosexual. I didn't want companionship or partnership with men. But most women do, and that is why they don't want to know. They can't know that maybe they are making love to someone who is really just f***ing them. This is not the whole picture, of course, but it is a freeze frame, a worst-case scenario, and when I saw it and thought about it and allowed it to insult me, not just as a woman, but as an emotionally needy sexual mind, I felt very small and lost in my costume. I needed, as many women do, more than a carnal connection to happen in sex, but in this of all places it was absurd to go looking for it, or to be hurt when you didn't find it. I wondered, though, if I wasn't feeling a ruder version of the clash that can happen when men and women try to reconcile their sex lives.
Take a look at this clip from Miller's Girl.
You wanted to see me?
This week's story, you wrote about a reluctant spider.
I enjoyed this one.
Survival and desire amalgamated and turned an aphotic eye inward. I saw my expectations dismantled and dismembered by the harsh and starving dogs of reality. Truths that sit in the vacuity of space like a hypergiant star, burning to ash. All elements too weak to withstand the awesome heat. We are what we are. And all creatures must eat. Damn. I
I was not expecting that.
When I used to give dating advice to men, I used to tell them that a man shouldn't make love to a woman's body, but to a woman's mind. Foreplay starts on Monday, not when you're in the bedroom on Friday. A woman needs to feel sexy, and that's why she has to think she's sexy. Look at this here.
That's right. Who's the biggest lies? Women the biggest lies. Biggest lie. Look at you. All of you. You lie. You a fucking lie. You.
Women claim they want a real man, but women wear makeup, wigs, and in modern times they use filters to look prettier. According to Plastic Surgery Report 2020, females received 92% of all cosmetic surgery, while males received only 8%. They don't do that for us, for men in general. They don't even care if we like it or not, because they do it for themselves. The sisterhood. Because women are the first ones to criticize their looks, the first ones to dig into their insecurities, because the woman not only values the approval of the sisterhood more than anything, they also compete with each other.
Same thing goes for weight. When a girl wants to lose weight and she's not happy with her weight, it's because it doesn't have anything to do with trying to find a guy. It doesn't. I promise you it doesn't, because there is always a guy that is willing to love you or at least be attracted to you how you are. But women are constantly competing with each other. They do these things so that other women will be jealous of them because it makes us feel better about ourselves.
How much proof do you need? What Norah Vincent mentioned about women not wanting to know that a man is just effing them is a major reason why hookup culture exists. Check this out.
But what happens is this. This almost always happens to guys I know at BC and at other schools. You ask a young woman out, and she says yes, but deer in headlights thing. Oh yeah, sure, oh great, yeah, that's great. Within 2 days, she's texted you saying, this is just as friends, right? I'm not into a thing, I kind of blah, 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 blah. This is mysterious to men. It's not mysterious to me, I know exactly what's happened. That young woman has gone and talked to 108 of her closest friends. And 106 of those friends have said, oh no, don't go out, nuh-uh. I heard him once say something weird in history class.
Modern women struggle with the situation that many of their peers consider most men unsuitable for dating. Consequently, the man who receives the coveted okay from their social circle becomes the desired one. The approval and opinion of the sisterhood are held in such high regard that facing rejection from the approved guy becomes a challenging ordeal. In an attempt to save face from the sisterhood, some women may choose to engage in a hookup with the approved guy, using it as a coping mechanism to cope with the rejection not only from him, but also from the judgment of their peers.
Something that I'm frustrated about, definitely in college, is specifically UCSB in general, hookup culture. If a guy says to come over, you already know what this guy wants. You know he's not gonna make you dinner. He's not gonna make you, I don't know, anything nice. He's just gonna have his way. But something that I'm frustrated about, and I know that's probably just a part of the college experience or whatever, but honestly I'm kind of over it, and kind of looking forward to when I'm out of here and men grow the fuck up.
Unfortunately, this experience often leaves women feeling emotionally bruised as they gave themselves to someone who may not have sought a deeper connection. The bitterness that comes from these experiences remains as women reflect on having shared an intimate part of themselves with someone who may not have reciprocated their desire for a more meaningful connection.
I know regretting most of my sexual encounters is not something a sex-positive feminist who used to write a column for Playboy is supposed to admit. And for years, I didn't. Let me be clear. Being a slut and sleeping with a lot of men is not the only behavior I regret. Even more damaging was what I told myself in order to justify the fact that I was disposable to these men. I told myself I didn't care. I didn't care when a man ghosted me. I didn't care when he left in the middle of the night or hinted that he wanted me to leave.
What's intriguing about all of this is that it's women's own choice to disrespect their sexuality by having intercourse without a man's commitment.
What about the fact that was reported late last year and made headline news for a while, that now fully 26% of American women are on medication for depression and anxiety, a number that's been rising, I think, even faster than it has been among adolescents and young adults? The most obvious answer to rhetorical questions like these is that something about the way we are living is making a lot of people miserable. And once again, I think you can argue that the sexual revolution is the obvious culprit. By making casual sex easier than it ever was before, the pill and related stuff put new obstacles into human relationships.
This is why this book should be an essential read for women, because what Norah Vincent wrote about the devastating impact of superficial sexual experiences goes beyond the mere freeze frame or worst case scenario. In her touching words, she described it as a moment that made her feel very small and lost in her costume, not just as a woman, but as an emotionally needy sexual mind. Norah's exploration sheds light on the profound emotional consequences that can accompany encounters where genuine connection is absent, where women may find themselves feeling insignificant and emotionally adrift. Now listen to this quote from Norah's book that's going to mess with your mind if you're new to this information.
For most women, sex is an epiphenomenon, the steam that issues from the engine. And the coal is mental. It's, do you make me laugh? Do you make me think? Do you talk to me? It's not, are you handsome? Are you rich and accomplished and well hung? I suppose, more often than you might think, it's not even, are you male or female? It's really just, are you there and do you get me? But that's the quantum paradox of sexuality right there. Because just as soon as I say that 3 of the women I dated and revealed myself to, 3 heterosexual women, wanted to or did sleep with me once they knew that I was a woman, I remember that one of those 3 women, Anna, didn't sleep with me because I didn't weigh 200 pounds.
Now this is profound, guys. Take a moment to absorb it. It's about more than physical attributes. Do you make me laugh? Do you make me think? Do you talk to me? Did you get it yet? It revolves around the self. Me, me, me. Female nature is inherently self-centric. The emotional experience is also centered around self. It's not about what women say they want or what women think they want. It's what women respond to. That's why it's not a coincidence that these women would still engage with Norah, because at that moment, Norah was able to turn them on sexually and emotionally satisfy them. Capitalism and feminism have clearly exploited this individualistic nature of female desires.
When a young woman, an insecure young woman, reads these magazines and thinks that she has to have perfume, cosmetics, hair products, beautiful clothes, singles travel, abortions, contraception. When she thinks she has to have all of these things, she's going to spend a lot of money. What these magazines are doing, and what now the internet and everywhere, turning a woman into a commodity. She's got this picture of herself on herself. It's all about me. If you can convince a woman that everything is about her, then she has to buy a whole bunch of stuff to make herself so wonderful. If inside she knows who she is, she doesn't need all that stuff.
One thing was certain, though. Everybody got their hands dirty, and, politically speaking, nobody really came out ahead. It wasn't nearly as simple as men objectifying women and coming out clean or empowered in the process. Nobody won, and when it came down to it, nobody was more or less victimized than anyone else. The girls got money, the men got an approximation of sex and flirtation. But, in the end, everyone was equally debased by the experience. Everyone, no matter their circumstances, had made the choice to be there, and chances were that choice was made in the context of a lifetime's worth of emotional wreckage done to their lives by people of both sexes long before they stepped through that door.
As mentioned in the first chapter, we will come back to what Norah Vincent said about most men really wanting wives and families for all the right and good reasons: love, companionship, dedication. Her book came out in 2006, and a lot of things have changed since then. Almost 20 years later, we're dealing with a higher difficulty of complexities of modern mating strategies and the challenges faced by men in forming deeper connections. Despite the prevalence of men's sexual urges, there is an emerging realization that deeper, meaningful connections work better for individuals in general. However, the dynamic of modern Western society make it challenging for the average man to form these connections with women in general. Reproduction plays a key role here, with current birth rates hitting an all-time low. There's a notable trend among modern women indicating a decreased desire for motherhood.
Women are not only supposed to have children, they are supposed to want to. This existed everywhere. It existed in the ways that adults spoke to me when they posed questions in the context of when you get married, when you have kids. And these future musings were always presented to me like part of this American dream, but it always felt to me like someone else's dream. You see, a value that I have always understood about myself was that I never wanted children. And as a kid, when I would try to explain this disconnect between their roles and my values, they often laughed in the way that adults do at the absurdities of children.
There is a disconnect between the values of the past and the values of current times. That's why you cannot expect the mating strategies of the past to be successful or worth it. As I said in our Steve Urkel video, the woman is the prize narrative didn't age well. The woman as the prize is based on traditional values. We are not dealing with traditional women anymore. Message? As we explore solutions to prevent disappointment, a growing trend reveals that self-contentment is becoming more prevalent. Pew Research indicates that only half of single men are actively seeking relationships or casual dates. This shift suggests that many men are opting to focus on personal fulfillment rather than navigating the complexities of modern dating. If you're gonna walk this path, keep what Norah Vincent said in mind. And I quote, "Nobody won. And when it came down to it, nobody was more or less victimized than anyone else. The girls got money, the men got an approximation of sex and flirtation, but in the end, everyone was equally debased by the experience." End quote. This is what happens when your purpose is superficial. As a man, you need to know where you're going. If you don't know where you're going, you have to figure it out as soon as possible. There are plenty of men who are content with being alone, because being alone doesn't mean you're lonely. However, this does not work for every man. That's why it's essential that you figure out who you are and your purpose in life. For those men who still aspire to deeper long-term relationships and family building, there is an alternative option: exploring foreign countries that uphold traditional values. I'm one of those men who took his talents overseas to build his family. However, this path is not without its challenges. Remote work capability, adaptability to cultural differences, and the willingness to be away from friends and family are crucial considerations. It's important to note, and I've said it many times on this channel, don't bring a foreign wife back to the Western world, because she will become exactly like the women of that world. Cultural influences and societal norms can impact individuals, and your partner may adapt to Western behaviors over time. I encourage you to read this book, the link is in the description, because it serves as a powerful narrative that encourages a deeper understanding of the emotional toll that hollow interactions can take on not only women, but also men, making it an essential piece for gaining insight into the complexities of modern relationships and the challenges men face in their mating strategies. Whether choosing a path of self-contentment or exploring relationships in foreign lands, each option comes with its own set of considerations. As we unravel these complexities, we gain a deeper understanding of the evolving landscape of relationships in the contemporary world. With that said, rest in peace, Norah Vincent. Thank you for putting yourself in men's shoes to experience our side of the story and present it to the world for others to learn. Patreon supporters, salute! Man, that's where we working. Protect yourself at all times. This video has officially been highlighted.